When you think about our modern world, global trade seems completely borderless. Capital just zips across continents in the blink of an eye. You've got markets opening in Tokyo, closing in New York, and then reopening in London, all before most of us have even had our morning coffee. It all feels so seamless, so instantaneous, so digital. But it isn't. Not really. See, the entire system, for all its incredible digital sophistication, has a physical secret. And in those moments of tension, certain places on the map become way more than just locations. They become levers of capital, of supply, and of immense economic power. And these are what we call strategic choke points. The global financial system might run on spreadsheets and satellites, but at the end of the day, it all gets squeezed through these very narrow corridors of land and sea. And when those corridors tighten up, money tightens right along with them. So how real is this impact? Well, think back to 2021. A single container ship, the Ever Given, got stuck in the Suez Canal for just 6 days. The cost? It froze nearly $10 billion in commercial activity every single day. That's the tangible, hard cost of just one bottleneck. Now, this link between geography and economic power, it's not a new thing. It's actually an ancient pattern, because when geography narrows, leverage concentrates. And that leverage, when you put it under pressure, well, that's when it becomes power. And you see this pattern repeating itself all through history. Millennia ago, controlling the Hellespont Strait meant you controlled the grain shipments, literally the economic lifeblood of ancient Athens. Today, control over the Taiwan Strait means you control the advanced semiconductors that form the very backbone of our digital and financial worlds. The principle, it's exactly the same. Now, the story of the Suez Canal is just fascinating. When it opened up back in 1869, it completely changed global trade. In Britain, they understood its strategic importance immediately, so they bought a controlling stake to secure their route to India. And that control, it directly reinforced London's position as the center of global finance and propped up the dominance of the pound sterling. But then, in 1956, Egypt nationalized the canal. And that move triggered a crisis that laid bare Britain's financial weakness. The United States pressured them to back down, the pound came under intense fire, and the dollar's rise just accelerated. And the lesson from all this? It was brutal, and it was clear. Lose control of the choke point, and you risk weakening your currency's hold on the entire world. But canals are only one kind of bottleneck. In the 20th century, a new lifeblood started powering the global economy, oil. And with oil came a new kind of choke point, one that was capable of triggering a completely new kind of economic crisis. This is the Strait of Hormuz. Now, at its narrowest point, it is just 21 miles wide. 21 miles. And yet, nearly 20% of all the oil consumed on the entire planet passes through this tiny stretch of water every single day. That's not just a statistic. That is a pressure point for the entire global economy. And this right here, this illustrates the chain reaction perfectly. We saw it play out during the oil shocks of the 1970s. First, a disruption at the choke point cuts off supply. Second, you get these massive commodity spikes. Third, inflation just surges as higher energy costs infect everything. And fourth, central banks are forced into monetary tightening. They have to raise interest rates and risk a recession just to get prices back under control. You see, sometimes inflation doesn't start in a printing press. It starts in a narrow stretch of water. So let's fast forward to today, because the map of choke points has become even more complex. It's no longer just about canals and oil. The critical bottlenecks of the 21st century, well, they involve semiconductors, sheer trade volume, and now, even the weather itself. The key pressure points today are really a mix of the old and the new. The Strait of Hormuz, still the world's primary oil artery. The Strait of Malacca is basically a highway for nearly a third of all global trade. But now we've got the Taiwan Strait, the nexus of our digital world, and the Panama Canal, which is newly vulnerable to a completely different kind of threat. And just look at this concentration. Over 90% of the world's most advanced semiconductors are produced in one place, Taiwan. And we're not just talking about chips for your phone here. These things power data centers, military hardware, and the core infrastructure of the financial system. So any disruption in the Taiwan Strait doesn't just halt gadgets, it threatens the entire digital backbone of global finance. And now climate change is creating entirely new choke points. In 2024, a persistent drought lowered the water levels in the Panama Canal, forcing authorities to slash the number of ships that could pass through each day. A a marvel of 20th century engineering, a symbol of strategic leverage, made vulnerable by rainfall patterns. It just goes to show you, globalization is not frictionless. It's conditional. So, why does all of this matter to you? I mean, why should you care? Because these distant geographical pressures, they don't stay distant for long. They have a direct, causal, and increasingly rapid impact on markets, on inflation, and on the money in your pocket. And here's the crucial point. Our modern economy is built on just-in-time logistics and is carrying historically high levels of debt. Now, this makes it incredibly efficient, but it also makes it incredibly fragile. There's just very little redundancy built in. So when a physical supply shock hits one of these choke points, the financial tremors are amplified across the entire system. Let's just trace the path. A threat in a strait causes shipping insurance to spike. The fear of that disruption sends commodity prices soaring. Rising inflation fears then push bond yields higher, and as the risk of a recession grows, the stock market reprices. A single event in the Gulf can, with frightening speed, ripple all the way into your mortgage rate or your retirement portfolio. And this is the enduring reality of it all. Empires rise and fall, currencies come and go, technologies evolve. But the fundamental constraints of geography, those narrow straits, the critical canals, they remain. They are a permanent feature of our global economic landscape. So the next time you see markets move sharply on some news from a distant part of the world, remember this. Global finance is not just floating weightlessly in some digital cloud. It is anchored firmly to the physical earth. The question is, when things get volatile, will you only see the breaking news headline, or will you understand the bottleneck behind it?